and we can now introduce to the industry the feeder profit calculator. Like I said, Chip Kemp is going to give you a quick, we only have I guess 15-20 minutes, give you a quick update and demo on the feeder profit calculator. And he's been doing a lot of demos. This is a popular, this is a very popular part of the IGS program. So here's Chip.
First, thank you. Second, I don't like that podium, so I'll just stand out there with you. 3, now you know why they had to get some new blood into the office. It was getting way, way off kilter. And so, I don't know what it means by new blood coming from Missouri. Rick spoke a little bit about line breeding. You take it however you will, okay? All right, somewhere around here, Jackie, I bet you have a torque for me. All right. So, about this time last year, we were just into the initial stages of the resurgence of this tool. And we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize that, as Wade mentioned, that this was an endeavor that started a long time ago. Let's face it, this is the holy grail of our industry, to be frank with you, is to get folks in the marketing and on the feedlot side of our thing to have some appreciation and utilization of genetics. Again, I think most of you are aware of this, but if you're not, if we pulled together the folks who run the largest feed yards in the country, and in fact, back so many months ago when we were talking about this tool, had a gentleman who ran, I won't say who it was, but you saw some pictures up here earlier from Dr. Funston, who ran that feeding effort. And he was excited about such a tool because he makes no bones about it, that essentially ear length and shape and height color is a proxy for genetic awareness in the feedlot industry en masse. And so if we can help make genetics real on that end, folks like yourself have worked so long and so hard to put in profit potential on your side of the business. Are there things we can do different, better? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, if we can't get the folks with the pull-through to help us a little bit, there's a bottleneck that's hard to get past. And so this tool was, when it was envisioned by my former colleague, Will Townsend and Wade, they had a vision and a concept, and Wade uses it a lot, and I love the terminology, and I use it frequently. The goal was to provide pervasive awareness of feeder calf value. What does that mean? That means get it in the open marketplace where people can truly know what your calf is worth from a feedlot predictability standpoint and what's mine's worth. That means I have the potential to capture a little more value, and the buyer has a chance to invest in a bit of a higher product. So, about this time last year, we went to hustling. Myself, along with Jordan Bowman, one of our colleagues on the programming side, Wade's help, Dr. Spangler's help, and a few other folks along the way have helped us. And so, about some number of weeks ago now, mid-July, this thing went live with a soft launch. We didn't make much noise about it, and since that time, it has started getting quite a bit of traction. So let's talk a little bit about what the feeder profit calculator is meant to do. We all know this. It's not a shock. There's a lot we have to learn, but the question is why? Sometimes I think we think too small, okay? Now, you have to be in the here and now. You got to think about what you have to do to be around next year. But I'm going to guess a little later in the day when we hear Dr. Spangler dream just a little bit, or when we hear a guest speaker a little bit later that I think is going to talk about some things that might make us, might shake us up just a little bit. We've got to realize there are some big pressures coming on us, and if we can't accept that, then we're just not going to move forward. Group that buys a lot of cattle, when they started a launch of investing in non-meat alternatives, that's just an observation of a truth, okay? You've heard it even lately. They can 3D print meat. You saw one a few weeks ago that NCBA sent out. The folks are making beef in a lab. Don't think that's not real. There are folks with serious efforts there. Things like WOTUS, legal stuff, or this. I've shown this slide, I think, to some of the trustees, and I know you can't read all the things at the bottom, so let me go ahead and just explain it to you. It is very simple. It's how much animal protein we consume. And if we go way back to the left, it gets over to about 65, and if we come to this side, it gets almost to present day. And here's what I would say is the big takeaway. You look at the top, that's the dark blue, that's seafood. It's gone up a little bit percentage-wise, but we still don't eat very much. You look at the yellow, that's turkey. It's actually, percent-wise, has grown a lot, but it's still a relatively small component of our diet. The orange, that's pork. We apparently like pigs because it stayed pretty static through that time. Here's what we have to understand, and this is important for us to see. When I was a wee bit, we'll just go to when I was 4 years old. When I was 4 years old, 1976, it's right. Really? Okay. Somewhere right in here, okay, is about our highest consumption of beef in this country. We were eating nearly 100 pounds of beef per capita in this country. And simultaneously, at the same time, we were eating somewhere in the ballpark of the mid-30s in terms of poundage of chicken we consume. Now, fast forward to today. Not that long in the grand scheme of things, even though I have a lot of gray in my beard. We went from nearly 100 pounds per capita consumption to about 50 of beef. On the other hand, we went from about in the low 30s on chicken to roughly 100. We have to recognize that we have to step up our game if we're going to play ball with these people. Because way too often, I think about my competition as the guy selling bulls down the road. And in the immediate future, he is. But at the same time, he's my ally to help battle this. And if I don't recognize that and we don't band together to develop tools like the profit calculator, we will be stuck. I used this once a while back, and I love this. I said it in a meeting to some of my colleagues. I think the book Moneyball, maybe not the movie, I don't really care, but the book Moneyball should be mandatory reading if you're a member of ASA. I'll let you read it later. I don't have time to make it sense. All make sense to you. It's about sports. So if you like sports, you can justify that. So there you go. It's a quick and easy read. But in there, when the author, Michael Lewis, is speaking about some comments, and actually this is a quote that he kind of paraphrases from Paul D. Podesta, which is one of the subjects of the book or the movie. He says a statement to me that is really important because how many times, and we're all guilty of it, I guarantee you I am too, I'll go out and look at a cow and I think, oh, I can remember everything about her. Oh, I can remember, right? I know what she did. No. I can remember the outliers, right? I can remember the unique things, good or bad, but I can't remember everything she did. And it's the same here. Folks who did this for a living, scouts who got paid serious money to watch baseball players play a game and thought they could tell the difference between a kid who's supposed to be a great one and a kid who's just a schmuck. And this guy says, I'm going to put dollars to it, and put numbers to it, and the reality is you can't tell a lick of a difference between somebody who's at 300, who's a major leaguer, and at 275, is probably going to live in AAA. So, we all think we have information. I know I think I do, right? I got numbers, okay? I get a lot of numbers. It's only information if I utilize it. Up until then, it's just noise. Things that clutter me and give me headaches. And so, we got to have tools, right? And so, you heard a good conversation earlier of, can we get caught in the weeds on certain pieces of female longevity, or can we use overarching figures, tools, that can help us identify? For example, you heard Wade's comments on stayability versus some of the others. There is a very reason for a very practical tool that you can implement very well. So, we need tools. If I take my dad to a place like this, we are done for the day. This is actually a picture of him when he comes in, okay? And that is all we do, okay? We stand there and oogle. He loves it. And so, or we can think of pretty important tools. This is some artist rendition of what? Printing press. Gutenberg's printing press, circa 1400, changed the world. You can find out later if you want. Or a tool like this. This is more a tool that my mind can understand and appreciate. Okay? I can save my own little world on regular occasion with this. Okay? Regardless, this is an homage to the boss. Again, something that we might think is recreation is in fact a tool, right? If you were at certain periods of time, this particular tool allowed you to drink liquid safely. And an homage to our colleague Monty. Yes, I know it didn't actually start in Egypt. It started in the Fertile Crescent. So it's not lost on me, but we realize the importance of beer as a tool. So, to our point, our job is to try to help you develop pieces, technology, tools, to be able to move your deal forward. So, let's talk a little bit about this thing we call the profit calculator. To preface what we'll go through the next little bit, we will be giving a couple other talks over the next couple days, and they will be much more down and dirty, let's play with the tool talks, okay? And so, I love that. So, should I not touch on some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that you'd like to talk more about? Certainly you're willing to ask the question. And by the way, don't wait for me to shut up to ask that question. Just raise your hand in the moment, because I'm probably not going to stop talking. Okay? So Gary, just throw your hand up and say, answer the donut question. Okay? But we will spend a couple more times talking about this in the next couple days. And if you have specific questions and you want to grab me by the collar and pull me in the corner and talk about it, enthusiastic to do that. So this is a bit more of a 30,000-foot view of the IGS profit calculator. This is really the key component. It's going to take your known genetics. For some of you, that means on your place. But for many of you who are seed stock folks, the big picture of this is for you to help identify these bulls at your commercial customers. This is both direct sires and maternal grandsires, if we can do it. Also, some basic management and herd health pieces. And what I mean by that, our good friends Dave Wallman and also Matt Spangler helped with this effort, who you'll hear from later. They dug into a fair amount of the data, and essentially they can assign values for mortality and morbidity associated with a couple pieces that we highlight. One is a calf weaned for more than 30 days, and one is that calf doubly vaccinated for VRD. If they can do those things, we can be pretty confident in the mortality level and morbidity level of that calf. Here's a step that makes this tool somewhat different than any other tool in the marketplace who tries to get at this particular effort. We can actually get an understanding of what your cow herd's doing. Okay? There isn't some static snapshot of an average cow herd. If you know your maternal grandsires, we can reflect the value you've built into your herd over time, or the lack of value as it might be. If you don't know your maternal grandsires, we can still get a pretty good stat by using breed estimates. So we can do some things on the cow herd side that frankly can't be done in other places. This is just mostly shameless advertising. So when you have 18 million head in your database, and that makes you the largest genetic evaluation on the planet, and it's not even close. You know who the second biggest one is? Let me be clear. Number-wise, not even close. And that's all both-fed breed, cross-breed stuff, too. So it's stuff that actually works for your commercial client, just saying. We also use some ARC data when we need to. We also use IGS data to get some breed differences. If you don't know our science team, you're going to get to meet more of them. You've already heard from Wade a couple times. You'll hear from him much more over the next number of days. You're going to get to listen to Monty and Lauren. I'm sure Steve has his spot at some point. You are going to get to hear from some of the best minds. And Matt Spangler is one of our consultants, so he's involved a great deal as well. This is an important place to clarify. We do this free of charge to somebody, a producer who wants a third-party validation of the feedlot profitability and the carcass profitability of their calves, no cost. But I also want you to understand, and I think it's important for folks to know, because people do get suspicious when I give them something for free, right? They're like, yeah, no, you can go ahead and keep that three-legged, one-testicle bull. I'm good, but thanks. There is a cost. It's a very distinct cost. You bear that, okay? Progressive, savvy seed stock producers who are willing to invest in this industry and invest in the success of their commercial clients, you bear this cost. So there is a cost. But because of the model that you all have put in place at ASA, we have the courage to do something that no other breed association would even dream to consider. And that is actually make genetics real for your commercial clients. This is that cow piece, just to kind of throw this a little bit further in. Let's just assume that I didn't have a tool that could reflect cow side. I would have to assume that maybe the marbling ability of your cow herd was some static number, right? Well, again, let's just say you've invested and you've made that better, and the marbling in your cow herd's a little bit better. Now we can use the red line as your predictor. And why is that important? Because wherever these discounts or premiums are, we have to build these into the equations, okay? So if I use this black line, there's what? 7-8% out in that tail that are going to get a discount of about $8 in this particular model. On the other hand, if I get out here in the red line to the right, you can see now there's about a similar equivalent that's going to get a bump for $12. So I need to be able to accurately reflect that bell-shaped curve. This is the way the profit calculator looks. This is where it starts to get real. So what we're doing is behind the scenes, we're using your known genetics, we're using your management practices and your health practices to predict biology. And then we take those predictions of biology and we turn them into 3 easy numbers. Now, I've had folks tell me, oh, Chip, we need more data on this sheet. Yeah, no, you don't. Because at the end of the day, less is more, right, Michael? If we can make this simple and implementable and real, it makes sense. And also, when I talk to the marketers, they'll tell me, give me one number I can work with. I don't need any more. Confused. These are the 3 numbers that we will generate that are important. I'll show you an example here in a moment. Relative management value. Again, what are we doing? We are predicting a deviation or a break-even deviation from the average calf. What is our average calf? For management practices, we are assuming that 60% of the calves in the industry are vaccinated for BRD, and 60% of the calves in the industry are weaned for more than 30 days. Now, you might argue that that's a bad assumption. You might be right. In your region, I might be low, we might be high. But just so you know, that's our base, okay? That's from what we do. Our relative genetic value, again, is a break-even deviation from what we view to be a close representation of the average animal in the industry. And I think we all know that animal is going to be heavily Angus influenced. We actually look at the average Angus genetic profile as our base. So we combine those 2 together, and that gives our 1 number total relative value. How would somebody participate and partake of this? Pretty simple. Many folks have already done it. You go to the International Genetic Solutions website. At the top of that page, up there on the right, there's a little link. You probably can't read it from where you're at. It says Feeder Profit Calculator. Should you have a customer who's been buying cattle from you for a while, and you're just like, yeah, we'll take a step. All they got to do is click on this. It'll take them to a very simple little input sheet. It'll probably take them 20 minutes to put in the data. There are exceptions, Jim and Butcher. But for most folks, 20 minutes will knock this thing down. They send that in, they push submit, and within 3 days, usually much quicker than that, they get a certificate back. That certificate would look something like this. I showed this certificate to you, for one, because I wanted you to see one, and 2, this is actually the first certificate we ever generated. And I told this story last night to the reps, and I told a few other folks, and I'm not going to give the individual's name who sent this in, but it would appear that this individual must have been waiting to see when the profit calculator was going to go live, Bob, because within mere moments of this thing becoming functional, I get, boom, input on some cattle from an individual that everybody in here knows. That individual's not here, so don't look at your name, okay? Or I haven't seen him yet. And so, because of who this individual was, I thought, wow, there must be a test. But that's okay. Let's see where we do. I failed a lot of tests in my life. What's one more? So I do this certificate. We do the one. It predicts the biologies, and it puts this certificate. And I know you can't really see from where you're at, but let me tell you what it's given. Okay? At the top, it's blocked out, but that's all the producer information. Okay? All the contact information, how you find this person. Below that, it's also blocked out the address of where the cattle are. In this case, it's the same place. Hence, the rates there are blocked out, so many of you might recognize that particular address. In that same box there on the left, everything from the number of head of calves in this particular group, the delivery date, the wean date, the breed composition. This particular set of calves is 48% Angus, 35% Simmental, the balance red Angus. It also gives us their polled, their black and red, their steers, weight ranges, so on and so forth. Below that, we have a region that has all of our vaccinations, dewormings, and implants. Essentially, everything, no, there's no essentially, let's scratch it. Everything you give, and from an information standpoint, will go on this certificate. You are on your own. And so we put everything out there because that's the way we do things. We try not to hide anything behind a black curtain. Now, on the right, you see some stars. They are essentially proxy measures for the biology predictions. But the big deal here are those relative values. And so my last comment about this one. So when I sent it back to the gentleman, I said, did I pass the test? He said, I like that. He said, those numbers look accurate. But he said, you need to know something. These feeder calves all died 2 months ago as fat cattle. He said, this is all the data from last year. So, okay. How'd we do? So we made a horse trade. I actually told him the actual biological predictions that are driving this thing, and he gave me the actual data. Here's the result. On this particular pin, the very first pin we ever did through the profit calculator, when we looked at carcass weight, we were 6 pounds heavy. When we look at percent choice, we were 1.5% higher than he was. We called it 92, he called it 90, they were 90.5. Yield grade, they were all lean cattle, so there really wasn't much difference. Average daily gain, we were different by 0.17 of a pound. Conversion, we were different by 0.12 of a pound. What do you do with that, right? That'll work. Now, I reminded him the next time I'll fail miserably and it will not work out that. But the interesting piece was his follow-up to me was, not only is that impressive, he said, you need to know one more piece. He said there was some illness going through the yard, and so to avoid any of that problem, we shipped him about a week early. He said, your numbers are probably closer even than what you think. So, here's a couple quick examples. I know you can't read some of this stuff, but because at ASA we don't do stuff behind the curtain, we want you to see what we're doing. For those of you who are close enough, otherwise you can come and look at the computer, otherwise you can come catch me later. But I want you to see what this is. On the left is the interface that we would use as a staff standpoint. Producer would never have to see it. But what it's asking, there's a whole bunch of things it's asking, but I'm putting in gender, weights, there's some prices for yardage and feed cost and things like that. But here's what I want to highlight. Here's the educational component of this tool. There's 4 great bars. What you can't really read what those are, but what those are the inputs of 4 science. 1, upgrade. The other one is shear force. And the other 2 are walking sons of upgrade shear force. Okay? That's my sire battery. That's my bull battery. And below that, essentially, it's asking me some questions. Do you know the maternal grandsires? I do not in this particular example. But I do know that in this particular example, they're all balancer calves. So red Angus gelding calves. Okay? I want you to see that this can work with any breed type for your commercial clients. One thing that you need to know, and it's crucial, is up here there is a box that says, are they waiting for 30 days or are they vaccinated for BRD? And those boxes are not checked on this screen. So we've not done our job from a health and management standpoint. And so what's happened is we've invested in good bulls. And if you see the relative genetic value, it predicts these cattle from a genetic standpoint are worth $4.50 more than the average calf in the industry. But because we did do our homework from a management standpoint, I'm backwards $9. I can't get over that. Okay? Now, let's add some awareness, shall we? Same set of sires. We still didn't vaccinate them. We still didn't wean them early. But this time I know a few maternal grandsires from that red Angus gelding deal. I've got some Nebula. I've got some Carolina Fortune. I've got some Freedom. Prominent bulls, if you happen to know those populations at all. So, somewhat reflective of real-world situations. I have even enhanced my genetic value more. I still can't overcome the fact that I did not handle management. Let's go one step farther, and let's just go ahead and hypothetically say we'll go ahead and give them a few shots and we'll wean the calves. Using that same genetic profile, you can see immediately that these calves, via our predictions, from a break-even standpoint, are worth $14 more per 100 to the buyer. To be clear, that buyer has no interest in paying you $14 more so that he can break even. Okay? He's not going to do that. But you at least now have a third party that says, these calves are worth more than the other calves on the other side of the fence that you know nothing about. Can we go a little farther than the same monies? Okay? Our hope is we can leverage this and push your dollars up a little bit higher. I also want to show you, because we have to be realistic. We know that the Sim Angus deal is about as hot as anything is. Why? There are probably no 2 breeds that complement themselves better than those 2 cattle. Just the way things are. And so if this tool couldn't accurately reflect most breed types, and it can accurately reflect almost every breed type with the exception of the major eared breeds in the South, because of some ways they handle data That's a bridge we hope to cross in the near future. So I'm just going to real quickly, across the top, 3 very prominent Angus bulls to show to you that this can work. These are bulls that some of you might know: Gardner's Momentum Bull, Basin Payweight Bull, 2 pretty prominent bulls on the AI side, Keneally Power Surge, another Select Sires bull. And also, you can't see from where you're at, but they're weighted now. Before, again, to show you the refinement of the tool that you pay for, I've decided, because we had a Funkston must have done my AI, because I got 80% on these. And 40% of those are assigned to momentum, 40% to pay weight, and so the Power Surge cleanup bull only had to get 20% of the gas. I can refine it that tight. Now, I come down, let's just look at some basic breed types. This is if I put these same set of really good bulls on a set of unknown baldy calves. $12. Straight Angus calves, essentially the same money. Why? No heterosis at all. And we know that Angus cows tend to get a little bit heavier condition. The Herefords actually trimmed them up a little bit, so the baldies and the straight blacks are about the same. This is an unknown Sim Angus Hereford. We're at about $14.75. Now, let's add some awareness. Sim Angus bulls on a little bit of knowledge about some Sim Angus females. Again, I know that you can't read these, but I want you to believe me that these are relatively contemporary bulls. I'm not just going out and getting some cool ones out of the database to make this thing dance and sing. So here's the bulls that are up there. Again, it's Sim Angus, so there's Gardner Prophet, there's Bismarck, and there's Final Answer. On the city side, it's Beat King, United, and Cowboy Cat. Pretty contemporary bulls. You can see that number. I know you can't see it. It's 1824. We've gone up $6 by putting Sim Angus into this deal. Now let's make them straight half-blood calves. One last time, those same bulls on an unknown Simmental base, $16.50. Those same bulls on straight city cows, nearly $20 a hundred more over the average Angus calf in this industry, who's 60% lean and 60% vaccinated. Heterosis works. An independent tool that is open to whatever the science says it is, shows that over and over and over. And interestingly enough, what you probably can't see from where you're at is this thing consistently says if we vaccinate and we wean these calves, we're going to be somewhere on the plus side of about $5.50 to $6 in advantage for herd health. That number is derived purely from the data. Okay? We didn't go to the free market and say, what should this number be? We let the science tell us about the mortality and morbidity. In the interesting piece, where would we find probably the largest set of value of herd of animal health in our industry? Probably at Superior. They probably have the largest reservoir of knowledge of value. And interestingly enough, the free market says that if I get a calf at a VAC 45, guess what Superior says they're worth? Oh, about $5 to $6 extra. So it's interesting that the science bears that out. One other thing I want to show you about this, and again, I know it's small, I don't know how to solve all that for you, but I want you to see, I can talk you through it. On the left, you see a certificate. I know you can't read it other than you're confident it's a certificate. But every one of you does a certificate, and every one of your customers will actually get 2 pages. One is the certificate you saw already. But with every single one, there's a second page that shows the genetics involved. We hold nothing back. We're going to show everything we got. And so on this one, while you can't see it necessarily, is the universal ID for 2 Simmental bulls. Over here, it says the cow herd is unknown, but I know that they're half Angus, and the other half is a mix of Red Angus Simmental. Okay? This is what it looks like, and this one is a mix of Simmental bulls and a bunch of Simmental maternal grandsires going back from year 3 to year 11. Year 1 and 2 don't matter for my females, right? Because they haven't made any calves yet. So I can make this thing 1 bull on an unknown cow, or the largest certificates we've done to this point, did one about a week and a half ago, a little over 1,000 bulls. And we can go into those 1,000 bulls, and you can tell me that 4 years ago, these 2 bulls made up 50% of my females. And the other 107 bulls that are in that bull battery were walking bulls, and so we can equally weigh. Okay? This tool has a level of refinement and awareness that doesn't exist elsewhere. So, I'll click through a couple of those just so you can see them. That's just getting more expensive. We can input bulls from essentially any breed type. They do not have to be within the IGS system. And so, I would I would encourage you to look at this more. This is not something that you can go through easily from a distance in 30 minutes, but I wanted to show you what this tool is about so that if you have an opportunity to come to one of the smaller sessions tomorrow, I'd encourage you to do that. We can sit down and we can play with it. If you really want to get serious and you would like to see some real-world examples from your own place, if you have 20 minutes this evening in the hotel room, go to the website. Put in some caps. I'll pull them up tomorrow. I can't do everybody, so FYI, everybody put yours in. No. Okay? But I can cherry pick a few, and we can get this done for you tomorrow. We can even see some real. Okay? And we'll interact with it live tomorrow on some of the other sessions. So that's what we do. That's the IGS Feeder Profit Calculator. We are very, very appreciative that you all support our efforts to give these kind of tools to your commercial customers. And trust me, when you talk to commercial cattlemen and cattlewomen and you show them this thing the first time and they realize, I did it just a few days ago, I was in the middle, 200 people, Steve, 200 commercial folks. And they were all brought together by a couple of seat stock folks. And when those people realize they have access to this free of charge because the other folks that were on the edge of the room that were essentially paying the bills, that's customer service that, frankly, not most folks can provide. So that's it. I'll be quiet. If you have questions, I'll take them, or you can wait till the other couple colleagues talk and we'll come back.